Hello, and welcome to Lit by Moonlight, where it's not a phase to mourn a major character death every episode, even though it probably should be. Today, we are reviewing HBO's The Last of Us with Episode 5, Endure and Survive. We also want to give a big content warning for discussions of suicide this episode.
In this episode, we meet Sam and Henry and come to understand that Henry, who turned in the leader of KC's resistance movement, Michael, to get medicine for Sam's leukemia, is now being hunted by them. Henry and Sam team up with Joel and Ellie to escape Kansas City, only for Michael's sister, Kathleen, to track them to the outskirts. There, the freedom fighters' violence triggers an onslaught of infected who take down the fighters. The four escape, only for us to learn that Sam has become infected in the process. Ellie attempts to heal Sam with her blood, only to awake the next morning and find Sam infected. As infected Sam attacks Ellie, Henry shoots and kills him. His sense of having just killed his brother and the nothingness that consumes him in this wake leaves him feeling that he has nothing to live for, and he kills himself very quickly after. Joel buries him, and he and Ellie continue their journey to Wyoming.
I'm Caitlin, and left parenthesis.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a really good way to describe it. Describe the feeling.
It's been a couple days and it still hurts.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I think you just like get over.
No.
Like you don't turn off the TV and go, well, that was fun, you know?
We were supposed to record this episode like right after the episode, and I texted Emberlyn and I said, I'm so glad we're not recording tonight. I can't do it.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about this, and it really does feel very strange to like literally mourn a major character death every episode.
Yeah.
And I say major characters, like maybe some people would argue they're one-off characters, but they each have very complex backstories to the point where I do consider them major characters, you know?
You get so attached so quickly.
It's so highly unusual for, it's like every episode is just like, who's gonna die today? It's like,
yeah.
We should just call this like, I don't even know if The Last of Us is adequate. I feel like it should be like, there's no more of us. Yeah, there's no more of us. This is it.
The who's gonna make it this week.
Yeah, who is gonna make it?
You think by episode 5 we would get used to this by now, but no.
Yeah, it just gets consistently worse.
Yep.
I'm Emberlyn, and I have endured and survived this week.
Yeah, you did. Proud of you.
I had horrible food poisoning from a Wegmans rotisserie chicken, and I love I love Wegmans. If y'all are looking for a brand deal, pull up. But you gotta,
not sponsored, but we could be by Wegmans.
You gotta like cool it with the rotisserie chicken, because that thing really destroyed me this week. I'm lucky to be alive, truly. Like it lasted so long. Like I felt like I was unwell. I almost fainted in anthropology on Friday. Like, no. That is how bad it is. Caitlin.
Yeah.
Wah, you know, like wah. That's all. Like this has like been a very intense episode. Wow. What hooked you?
A little bit predictable, but Henry and Sam, and just getting to see a little bit more about them and how their story was aligning with Joel and Ellie's entrance. I was glad we didn't get like a full backstory, like a full episode, although I think I would have loved that too, because I eat this up. But it was cool to see a little bit of where they were at the same time that Joel and Ellie were getting to Kansas City, and what they were doing just before their stories crossed paths. Like, I loved getting Henry's point of view of Joel fighting off the people directly after the car crash. I thought that was really cool. A detail that I really liked about that scene that I just noticed today when someone pointed it out on like Tumblr or something is when he's looking out the window, there's like an orange like storefront across that's like reflecting in the window, and it's like the orange is like going right across his eyes to kind of like reflect like the mask, like the little hero mask that he paints on Sam, which I thought is like such a cool detail.
Very cool detail.
Yeah. What hooked you?
So I think I agree with you. I think like it's nice that we get to start the show from Sam and Henry's perspective and get to see what they've been through. Mm-hmm. I also like that that's kind of as far back as things typically go in this show. Like, we learn a little bit about what a person's life was like before they met Joel and Ellie. Yeah. But we don't really know who they were before the outbreak, which is nice because this isn't really a show about that. But I would actually give anything to know who Kathleen was. Like,
yeah, I want to know.
Anything. Because she just gives me such rogue teacher vibes in, like, the worst way. Like, you know, like, she just gives me, like, okay, friend, come here. Let's have a conversation. You know? Like, maybe
like,
that's why she's so horribly apathetic to children. Like, why? How could she possibly? Like
one of
is
those
she,
teachers
you know?
who hates kids, and you wonder why you ever became a teacher for kids in the first place.
Yeah. Or just, like, somebody who's just been so wronged by the education system, maybe, that they're just like, wow, an apocalypse. This is not even the worst thing that happened to me today at school. Like,
yeah.
but I love that. And then I love that we're starting to, I like right from the beginning, we start to get this we start to understand that, like, Henry and Sam are kind of mirrors of Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
That scene in the beginning where they're all sitting around the lantern and there's, like, kind of a mirror effect because of that. I was just like, wee! Because I just loved how that kind of ties into this episode and how it furthers Joel and Ellie's relationship later in the episode.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured that's where it was going when we started. And it did go there, but it was just a great hook for me to be like, okay, I hope this is the direction that I think it's going to end up going in.
Yeah,
you know?
that, I like how you said how the lantern scene created a mirror effect. That's a really good detail there. Did you have a favorite quote from this episode?
Oh, I love when Henry and Sam, they're cornering Joel and Ellie in this building after they've been asleep at night when they first meet. And Henry is kind of, like, concerned about the way Joel's answering him when it comes to him kind of, like, negotiating.
Like the tone of voice,
and, yeah, Ellie goes, that's just the way he sounds. He has an asshole voice.
Yeah.
That's, like, so funny. And then, obviously, I don't know if it's the quote that gets me, but just the scene. But when Henry refers to Ellie as being his daughter, or was maybe Joel being referred to as Ellie's father.
Yeah.
And they kind of in sync go, oh, he's not my dad. I'm not her dad. You know? I'm like, that's exactly what you say when you're someone's dad.
Exactly.
Come on.
Don't deny it.
I love that. There were other things, but those were the things that really, really stuck out to me. This was just, actually, okay, oh my god, I don't even want to talk about this yet. It feels weird to get this deep in the episode so quickly, but when Sam and Ellie are sitting on the bed and they're writing back and forth on his sketch pad, and he asks, if you turn into a monster, is it still you inside? Because this was before we even knew what happened to Sam. I was just like, profound. And then we found out, and I was like,
No!
So, really great.
That one hurts.
What were your favorite quotes from this episode?
Well, to go off of your favorite quote of he has an asshole voice, I really liked that Ellie's like, Joel, tell him he's okay. And Joel just goes, everything is great. And, like, that same monotone voice, and she just goes, dude. I just love that so much. Like, he didn't even try.
Yeah.
Everything is great. Like, he's so over it. I also love after they they shared some food together, the four of them, and Joel looks at Henry and goes, you ate, we didn't kill each other, I'd call this a win-win and move on. Like, he's ready to go. This wasn't a line, but I really liked when they're all hiding out under the tunnels and Sam and Ellie are, like, laughing and playing together. You see Joel look down at his watch after he looks at them, and then he then apologizes to Henry about, like, calling him a rat, because then he's like, you know, if you're doing this to protect him, like, I totally get it, and I didn't know your situation, so I'm sorry. So I just really like that whole detail of the watch, and I'm really normal about it. And then finally, I really liked, again, I don't want to get into it yet either, but it's at the very end, after Sam turns, and Henry looks at Joel and just says, what did I do? Like, he, like, blames himself for it, and it hurts so much worse, because in the game, he tells Joel, this is your fault. And that change just, it made it so much worse. But just, like, the writing is incredible, but at what cost?
There is so much thought going into each character, like, their dialogue in the show. I feel like they're taking the games and they're going, okay, what would this person say on our show? And I love that question. I know, I think it's a question, you probably obviously ask, but if you were making a show, but I just like that there's so much intention.
It's amazing.
Behind
it's amazing.
some of the dialogue choices. Yeah. Whoa, that one hurts. If this wasn't ever watching that together, and we just, like, both of our jaws just dropped. We both, like, looked at each other, like, we were both, like, crying, like, immediately, like, the moment that happened.
It was horrible.
to turn the tide in a more positive direction before we both start crying, Caitlin, what song is going to be number 1 on your bloater thirst trap playlist? She's insensitive now.
I love it, though. It's so good. In honor of Rihanna performing at the Super Bowl halftime show, I'm saying this on a Sunday morning before it all happens, Disturbia by Rihanna. Because it's a disease of the mind. It can control you.
It sure can.
So
it sure can.
It feels right.
I think that was the second. No, I think it was the second album I ever bought. Like, ever.
Really?
Yeah, and I used to, like, I didn't have, like I had I think I had a CD player, but we were kind of past that point as a society, but I hadn't moved on to my Nano yet. Mm-hmm. So I would just, like, blast that on my desktop computer while I was playing my Barbie games.
It's like, a good one.
You know? It's, like, such a slay. Also,
you better play it.
The bloater, so slay. I don't care what anybody says. Slay. Like, that's, the moment he came out, I was like, slay. Like,
literally had a strut to his hip, not gonna lie.
He came, he saw, he conquered. Oh my god.
Ate it up.
Yeah. I said Alien Superstar by Beyonce.
Perfect.
I was like, yeah, like I want like a drag bloater. Like at a show. Like I want to go to a show. I want to go to like drag brunch and like see a bloater. Like I want the Last of Us theme that goes right into like Disturbia. I want that.
There's gotta be someone out there who's gonna do it.
I want that. Somebody out there in the drag community, please heed my begging and make that happen.
So in this episode, Ellie and Sam find comic books that they both read, but they don't have all of the additions to. Like they don't have all of the books within the series to. What book series would you hate to have missing copies of in the apocalypse?
This was so hard for me. I think your answer is really good because I think that's probably the closest thing I can think of because I'm not really there's just not a lot of book series in my life that have really like wiggled my wagon. Mm-hmm. So I said, and this isn't like a series, but if the world just suddenly ran out of copies of Becoming by Michelle Obama and like all the other copies were magically eradicated by lasers, I'd probably go with them. I'd be like, take me too! Like, I think that'd really ruin my life. Like, I don't think a lot of us would be like really like slaying the way we are right now if it weren't for that book. So, yeah, so I would really be worried. How about you? You had a great answer.
I think 13-year-old me would go absolutely insane, and much like you going with Becoming by Michelle Obama, I just need to like be ended. If I read the end of Catching Fire and then didn't have a copy of Mockingjay to find out what happened next, that Catching Fire ends with the quote, and if you haven't somehow read it or know what's going on with this book,
that's really on you.
That's on you, because the very last line in Catching Fire is Katniss, there is no District 12. And I remember reading that going, what the heck? Like being so like insane. I'm like, and that's the end. And I remember I was at my grandma's house and I yelled and she's like, you good? And I like slammed the book. I was like, Grandma, here's what just happened in this book I just read. And I like said it all to her. And I just remember like needing to like go to the library like ASAP. Like I need to get this book. So if I read that and I just didn't have a copy of the next book, I would be going insane. I wouldn't know what to do.
That's so for real. I think Catching Fire was the beginning of my playlist making as coping.
Yeah.
Like tendency. Like I remember our English teacher, Mr. Carter, gave it to me, like loaned me his copy, and this was before we were even teaching it. Like because like our English teacher started teaching it like not long after it came out, which was really cool.
It was so cool.
Before that I just remember being in my bed at home and like closing the book and throwing it at the wall and crying.
Yeah.
Like I probably woke my parents up. It was probably like 3 a.m. I was unwell.
Yeah.
Like, it really, wow.
It was definitely like one of the first book series that like really grabbed me that I was so invested in. It was like one of like my very first like I cannot stop thinking about this moments. So I really, honestly, kudos to our English teacher for being like, oh, this is really popular at the time. The kids want to read it. Let's read it. Let's go.
Game changer.
It was great.
Absolutely.
It was so much fun.
Caitlin,
mm-hmm.
I remember wanting Katniss to endure and survive during the Hunger Games.
Yes.
So badly. Was there a character you wanted to endure and survive in this episode?
Sam and Henry.
Yeah.
Really, really wanted them to endure and survive. I know how the game went. I was like, it's okay if they change it. It'll be fine. They can live in this one. Everything will be okay. And it did not change it, which is like, fine, I guess, but ow. They're just so incredible, and both Lamar Johnson, who plays Henry, and Kevon Woodard, who plays Sam, were so incredible. They were like, kudos to the writing for giving us lovable characters and having us fall in love with them, like, within one episode, and then tearing them away and us being like so emotionally broken about it. But to have them like just act so well, and just like, I don't know, there's like both of their acting was so good in this episode. Like my heart like broke, especially with Sam. He was just so precious to me, and I love that they aged him down a bit, because in the game he's around Ellie's age, but in here he's 8, and he's so much smaller than Ellie. Which Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann say on their podcast about this, that they did that purposefully so that Sam could be someone who looks up to Ellie, kind of like how Ellie looks up to Joel. And I love that so much for both Sam and Ellie's bond, but also because I feel like this show is constantly reminding me that these are just kids. Like, like, you know that Ellie's like a kid, but she just kind of like, I think it's easy to forget her innocence just because of like the way she acts, and like this like tougher-ish persona that she kind of puts on to kind of like hide her own little pain. But there are so many times while watching this episode I just kept going, he's so small, because he is. He's like, he's a baby, and he's so innocent. And then like Ellie's like innocent way of like being like, oh, my blood is medicine, I'll help you. And I'm just like, oh, baby girl, like that's not how that works, but you're 14, you don't know any better. Like, it just, I really love the emphasis, because it just makes it all hurt so much more. And I just wanted to protect both of them, but especially Sam so much, which just made the ending of all of this so much more painful.
It's really very sad, but also, I don't know, there's the way that the show constantly reminds us that these are kids is important, just because I know there were a lot of people that were like weird and angry when Bella Ramsey got casted, because it wasn't like a pretty, 20-something that they could like fantasize about.
She's
and
14.
I really appreciate
Ellie is
that, because
14.
like that's not who she is. So I'm like literally looking at all of the gamer boys right now and pointing and laughing at you. Because, like, this is a show about, like, a man and his, like, found family daughter, like,
right,
who is very young and is, like, like, matured by the circumstances around her. But that's the extent of that. So I really, really like that that's an element of this. And I think that we see how, like, Bella just, like, embodies that. She deserves all of the awards, and that's why Ellie was my person that I'm just manifesting, enduring, and surviving, and I'm very happy that she exists, because I think the way she's with Sam in this episode is really special, made me want to violently sob. Also, someone's going to need her as a wide receiver tonight, because she runs. Yes. She ran. She was dodging the infected left and right. Like, they need her tonight. Yeah. Like, if something goes wrong tonight, I'm gonna be like, Bella Ramsey probably would have. Bella Ramsey probably would have won the game.
Anytime there's like a really bad play, like, Bella Ramsey wouldn't have done that.
Bella Ramsey wouldn't have done that. But yeah, just. Wow.
Sorry, I'm just like picturing with like the whole sniper scene, like Joel's the quarterback and Ellie's the wide receiver.
It's so real though. It's literally what it was like. I remember just thinking that during the episode, I was like, damn, she's doing that. Like, she's really dodging him.
She's really killing it.
So, Caitlin, like, this episode had a lot of highs and a lot of low lows. What were some of our peaks and valleys for this episode, starting with your first peak?
This episode really was like, I felt all the emotions, because there were so many times where I'm like, this is awesome, and then you get to the end, you're like, oh, I need therapy. So one of my favorite scenes, and I cannot wait to watch it again just for the scene alone, is the entire sniper sequence. Was so well coordinated. Oh my god, it was so good. The set design, I found out on the podcast that they built that whole like cul-de-sac area. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, the house that the sniper was in, I remember looking at it and being like, oh my god, I hated this part in the game. It was so hard. It was so difficult. And just how they coordinated everything, like Joel getting to the house, and then it was really funny. My dad's like, he got to that way too quick. He's like, he should have like died like 20 times.
That was a whole thing for me.
That was a whole thing for me. Why did he get there so quick? It was so funny. But like, just the set design of the set design of this whole show is incredible. But this sequence in general was just, there was so much going on, because once Joel, takes out the sniper, and then he takes over and has to like, watch over Ellie and Henry and Sam, and just like help them from his vantage point as much as he can. Just the coordination of like him up there, and then the chaos of when all of the infected came out of the ground. I yelled so much because that was just like so insane, just seeing them all just like burst out of the ground like that. And
so scary.
It was so scary, and they're so fast, and it was, oh my god, it was so much. And then you got the bloater, which is there too. Oh, so freaking cool. And it was just so well done. And just like, there was so much going on in the background. Like, half the time I'm like, I wanted to pay attention to Ellie, but I wanted to see what was happening to this guy in the background. Like, just seeing every single person having their own fight with infected or a clicker and all these things. And like, the bloater completely ripping Perry apart was horrifying. But it was just, I'm just like, that's what happens. It was terrible. But like, as much as I was in awe of that, the whole like choreographing of everything, I just also really loved that it emphasized the growing bond between Joel and Ellie, and like their silent communication with each other as he was able to clear a path for her. And like he was obviously, I think he was just zeroed in on her. I don't even think he was paying attention to Henry and Sam, but he was so zeroed in on her. And then that one moment when she finally gets out of the car, after that child clicker comes after her, which was terrifying, but amazing. And she kind of looks up towards him, and obviously they can't really see each other, but like, it's just the act that she was looking up at him, and she's basically like, you got me, like look, I'm gonna go over here, and this is what we're gonna do. And he sees what she's looking at, and he's just like, all right, I got you. And he just starts clearing out a whole path for her so she can get to Henry and Sam and help them. And also just seeing Ellie take out a couple infected with her knife was great. So that entire sequence, I want to just like eat up every single behind the scenes fact that I can get out of that scene, because it was so cool and so well done.
Yeah, I feel like I really like that the show is giving us a lot of insight into creation. I really appreciate when shows do that.
Yeah, me
because
too.
I think it shows how intentional they are. Like, sometimes I see BTS content for a show and it's like, oh, like so and so is like really dark, so we made it so you couldn't see anything going on the television screen. Because we are not good at landing our shows. We're Marvel, by the way. But like, I love, like, there's so much, like, I've been listening to the podcast too, and there's just so much like thought that goes into putting these together. And not just that, you can tell how excited the creators get about putting things together. They're like, oh, well, for this we did this, and I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that. But I'm also like, thanks for sharing that with me. Like, that's so cool. And I think it's so important for younger creators to see that, like, to see technique. Like, don't gatekeep your technique for a cool show or like a cool shot. You know, we live in a world where everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna gatekeep this. And I love that, like, these creators are like, oh, like, this is how we did it. Like, look, you know, like, that's cool. Like, look what I did. Ugh, I love that, you know?
I feel like that really shows, and I feel like we've kind of talked about this on the podcast before, but like the difference between making something for profit and making something for the love of it. And where I feel like that's where a lot of like video game adaptations fail, because they're clearly just making it be like, oh, well, everybody loves this game, let's make a movie out of it so we can get people to come see it and make money off of it, but like not care about any of the actual plot or story or importance to the actual game story in this movie. We're just making a fun action movie. Whereas with this, that's why I was so nervous when they said they were making this into a show. I was like, don't screw it up, please. But like, they're so, like, the creators are so heavily involved and clearly care so much about it, and you see that, and they're making it for the love of the story, not just because they're being handed all of this money for it. So
yeah,
it's just great. It's great to see.
I mean, I'd do anything for if I was being handed a bunch of money, but
I mean,
think it is important to do it with heart, you know?
Yeah.
So speaking of behind the scenes stuff, Craig and Neil talk a little bit about how Sam and Henry are mirrors for Joel and Ellie, and this is something I've mentioned previously, and how when Sam and Henry both die is when Joel is starting to realize that the same very well could have happened and may happen to them because he wouldn't be able to endure without Ellie and the significance she now holds in his life. Scary if true. And also because that's something I want to think about right now, but also I think it's like really great how the creators are thinking so intentionally about how like each individual experience that Joel and Ellie have episode by episode is bringing them closer together and how it's changing their relationship. Like this show, obviously, we say this, like, what we talk about what the show isn't about, that you think it'd be about, like, zombies. I think this show's also a lot about relationships.
Right.
And, like, I really, like, love that that's something that Craig and Neil are paying attention to. I think sometimes, this, not to go my sometimes soapbox again, but, like, you know, you see a show, I'm going to use, like, Sherlock, for example, where, like, people get so caught up in, like, oh, like, the embellishing of everything, that they don't think about the dynamics that each person has with one another. They don't think about the relationship building, and I think that's how, like, things can go awry in a story when you're not thinking about, like, if Sherlock was, like, sad, what would John do? You know, like, when the creators stop writing with that thought in mind, when the creators stop thinking about it, the whole show falls apart and it starts to make less sense for continuity purposes. So I love that that's something that the creators are thinking so much about, is like what happens and how that affects Joel and Ellie. It's not like, oh, these two people that we just met and bonded with have died.
The end.
Well, let's go on to the next thing, you know?
Yeah.
So
everything has a consequence.
Everything has a consequence, and it all pretty heavily affects Joel and Ellie and impacts their relationship together. So that stuck out to me. What was your second peak?
My second peak, kind of going off of the whole relationship thing, is I love how we're getting insights to the stories of characters who aren't Ellie and Joel. Like, I love the idea of every person having their own story where they could be the main character. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there is a really great video by Nathan Zed on YouTube. Only watch it if you've played or know about the second game. But he talks a lot about how every character has their own The Last of Us story. And that was so evident here with Henry and Sam, and also with Kathleen. Like, this story could have easily been Henry and Sam are the main characters that we're following, and Joel and Ellie are just people that we meet along our journey. Or we're following Kathleen, and we also want revenge for her brother so bad, so of course we're going to go do whatever it takes to go after Henry. Like, every person thinks that they're the main character. And that's what I love about the story of The Last of Us, because that's what it's about. It's about the people. It's about the relationships and the choices they make and the consequences that come with them. And, like, Joel and Ellie are just one perspective that we have on this world. Like, yeah, they're our main perspective, and they're the people that we care about and we latch onto, but it's not just them. There are so many other people with so many other stories that, like, would be just as important if we were in their shoes. And it's just so cool to see. It's amazing. And I just love that we're getting that in the show. And there's a lot of parallels that are, like, if you know, you know. Like, I just, again, with the whole storytelling, like, they're giving us all of these mirrors, and we have to just keep looking into them. And it's great.
It's like, I'm just laughing because, like, like, there's some characters where the show is so... There's some shows where the character is so, like, one-dimensionally thought out that they're, like, NPCs. Meanwhile, the show has taken NPCs and made them fully dimensional characters. Like,
literally.
That's a little reverse. Like, wow.
Yeah, but literally, though, like, it's crazy. Like, Kathleen could have been an NPC. I mean, like, she probably would have been a little bit more, but, like, the people that she's surrounded with are NPCs. But, like, they're people now.
They're people now.
It's wild. That's, again, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible writing.
What
was your second peak?
I think, speaking of Kathleen, her calling Sam's death fate and saying that kids die all the time, which is, like, icky, and, like, tootling out about fate and things coming full circle, and then just absolutely getting fucking wrecked by a clicker child. Like, Isn't it ironic? Like, that's so fun. Like, I don't know. That's
the
hilarious
best
to
irony
me.
I've ever seen played out.
It's
So
like
good.
such a like, oh, you hate kids? Well, what if one killed you?
What if one killed you?
Like, wow, okay. Like, wow. Also, like, Catherine's character is so interesting to me. And I think, like, her as a parallel to everyone else is really interesting because Kathleen isn't able to forgive someone giving up her brother, and she wields a lot of power in the name of accountability because she thinks it's more effective and gratifying than forgiveness. And it turns out to be kind of her downfall because her apathy toward children kind of puts her in direct line of a child.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you know, you have someone like Henry who kills Sam, his own brother, to save Ellie, which says a lot about him and who he really is. But he can't wrap his head around that truth, and he kills himself because of it, which I'm not saying like, oh, how empathetic of him to do that. But what I'm saying is like, it's just so fascinating to me that she couldn't forgive, and like that is what drove her. And I think like there's probably some underlying message there about the importance of empathy in hard times, and like how like sometimes wanting to be accountable can like destroy you. So wow, you know. And it's also interesting to me because I'm reading this book about disability futurism right now, and like there's a lot of conversation about collective care and mutual aid in difficult times, and it's like really interesting to think of that in the lens of like an apocalyptic situation, and like the people who are doing collective care, the people that are like, you know, making trade-offs to help their brothers who are very sick, or like doing things that further the wellness of others versus people who are like apathetic and looking for like accountability. So I just really like that. Like, that's a really cool thing. I reading this book in the lens of the show has taught me that like there is like an opportunity everywhere for like a little bit of like, I don't know, tying someone's shoe for them, or like I don't know, like showing them how to use a gun. It's really cool.
It's great.
Big fan. Caitlin, what was your valley for this episode?
Oh, the ending broke me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, who watched that and was okay after? Not me.
Some weird guy.
I was hoping to at least get 2 episodes out of Henry and Sam.
Yeah.
And this isn't even really like a criticism because I still loved the episode so much. But I was just like, we'll get at least 2 episodes. And then like the more they just kept like once they got to the sniper part, I was like, oh no, this is not going to end well because I know how this goes now. I was like, we're not getting 2 episodes. This is it. This sucks. This show really is driving home the fact that they're just really good at making you love a character and taking them away immediately, and I hate it. And in parentheses, I'm impressed. Like, it's just so good. So good. So good. Yeah, my valley was I wanted more time with them, but, you know.
That's interesting. I wonder if I'll look at the show differently once the season is finished, because I definitely agree that right now I think things are moving so fast that like the pacing is just like, it's not bad, like it's definitely like palatable, like especially if you're like someone who has like a short attention span like me. But also I do think like, I think it's like we're moving so quickly, we're getting introduced to these amazing characters and then having them ripped away from us so quickly. And I wonder if there's a greater purpose to that, which is why I'm not being critical of it. And I think maybe when I look back, I think I'd have to have the full season like in my hand, wrapped up with a bow at the end, and be able to like rewatch it and just like to understand that. So I think that's like an interesting point. Like, I would have really enjoyed seeing more of Sam and Henry too, and so I guess I find myself wondering if there's like a more abstract reason that things are moving so fast, and it could just be that there's so much that happens in the storyline of The Last of Us, but I also I'm looking forward to seeing why, you know?
Yeah, well, see, for me, like, it felt so fast because in the game you get way more time with them, but because I was trying to think, like, as I'm watching the episode, I'm like, am I gonna be mad that this is only 1 episode with Henry and Sam? But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, the only thing that would really missing are just more, and like there's so many encounters that you have when you're with Henry and Sam. Is like there's encounters with infected that you have to get through, and there's a whole bunch of people that you have to fight through. Like we just, that's all we're really missing. Like there's a whole sequence in the tunnels where like they all get separated from each other, and you have to like fight all this infected. Like that's all we're missing is just more encounters like that. And like you don't want to see that all the time. Like you gotta like move the story forward. So I get why they're kind of glossing over some of like the gameplay like that and just giving us like that one big scene at the sniper, but at the same time I'm like, this feels so fast because I was with Sam and Henry for at least a couple hours. Like it's crazy. But it is interesting to like, it just feels fast because you're missing all of the little things like that.
I also wonder if like what's missing expands beyond. I guess what I'm saying is what's missing might even expand beyond the game, because I think it's one thing to be like, oh, the only thing we're missing is X, but it's like, I guess from the way I'm thinking about this is also like, are there things missing that maybe the writers could have included? Are there storylines that the writers maybe would have wanted to explore more? You know, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But,
okay, I get that.
But I do think, I wonder if the reason I'm not like, there's part of me that's just like, dog, I can't do this every week. Like, yeah. I need to have a week where I'm not mourning. Right. But then I think I'm very interested to see like if there's like a greater purpose for that. So I'm hoping that there's like maybe like toward the second half of the season I'll have like a greater understanding of why some of these characters that are like really great are also like maybe not spending as much time with us as you think they would. So I think that's like a good point. My Valley, completely non-critical, was just like Sam and Henry's deaths like really hurt me, personally, and they were so like sometimes a slow and painful demise is less bad. Like when things happen really quickly and you don't have time to process them, sometimes that sucks more. And I really felt that with this episode. Like we move so quickly from from little Sam just being infected to him attacking Ellie to Henry killing him. It is so fast. Like it is like probably maybe like all probably takes place over the span of like what, like a minute. And it just like, it's so stunning. So I like to applaud the creators of this episode for absolutely jarring me. But yeah, I'm complaining, but I'm not complaining. I'm not like, do that less. I guess I'm just like, why? Why would you hurt me like this on a Saturday morning? Like, come on.
Why are you so good at hurting me?
Yeah.
Like, thank you so much for writing the most heartbreaking scenes ever. I love
really
it.
Not cool.
I don't want more, but also every
really
time you do it,
cool.
I'm impressed. So
yeah.
Well, maybe to lighten things a little bit, what are you saddest that Joel and Ellie missed because of the apocalypse?
I did 2 this week.
Yeah.
The first is the Don't Worry Darling movie premiere. And namely the Chris Pine meme and Harry saying, what I love about this movie is it feels like a movie. Because Ellie would have memed that, and I think she would have been really into that. I think she would have, I think that Ellie, she A, would have memed that, and B, would have somehow ended up at Barrier at Love on Tour and would have punched a girl.
Yeah.
I think I just see both things for her. Like, I think she could maybe be I don't want to say like a closeted Harry fan, but I think she's just chill about it.
Yeah.
But if she by some strange chance ended up at Barrier, I think she'd probably take out one of the girls that goes to every fucking show for some reason.
Oh, 100%.
Because I think their parents probably have money in the Caymans. I also realized we haven't been doing a lot of these for Joel. I think it's kind of because I think there's just like, when we think about pop culture, it's weird to think about Joel in relation to pop culture because he just seems like this grumpy older man that wouldn't be interested in that. But I'm gonna say that when Neil Young and Joni Mitchell took their music off Spotify in protest of Joel Rogan. I think Joel would have probably switched to Apple Music in solidarity, and if Joel ever saw Joe Rogan in a Wawa, he would strike him down with his fist.
Yeah.
I think both father and daughter are capable of violence beyond it just without there being an apocalypse. So
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
yeah. How about you? What was yours?
Again, we're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday, so I'm just thinking about that and then the halftime shows. So I said Lady Gaga's halftime show because I don't know, man, that was definitely one of the best Super Bowl halftime shows I've seen so far in my life.
Stephanie.
And I think it would have been a shame if that never happened. Not even the fact that like Ellie would appreciate it, just for the fact that I'm sad that it wouldn't have happened. Like to live in a world where that didn't happen. Sad. Horrifying.
I remember we were in my college dorm, and when she was up on top of the building, and then she like jumped down in her little like onto the wiring, I like gasped. I was like, "Wow,
it was great."
The breath support, like, shut up.
Incredible,
Stephanie.
Incredible. I think about that halftime performance often. We'll probably rewatch it later today after recording, just to prepare myself. It's great. I think it's great. One of the best. Top 10.
So, Caitlin, on a scale of 1 to 5 times you just audibly gasped this episode, what would you rate it?
Despite the pain, I really do have to continue to give this a 5 out of 5 because the storytelling is so well done. There were so many parallels to both the ending of Game 1 and the story of Game 2, the attention to detail and all of the set design, the raw emotions. It freaking hurt so much, but I have to give it all of the kudos to the writers and the actors because this really is one of the best shows I have seen in so long. Like all across the board, writing, design, production, all acting, everything. So good. 5 out of 5.
Yeah. I think the show is probably notoriously going to be one of the shows, you know? I feel like there's a show canon where like you put like The Sopranos and like Game of Thrones and like all of the shows that have been good. Ironic they've all come from HBO.
Yeah.
Anyway. But like I think this is probably gonna be one of those shows. It hurt me. It hurt me.
Yeah.
This hurt. That hurt. Ow. I'm hurting. I'm in pain.
Ouchie, ow.
But I would also give this episode a 5 out of 5. It made me feel a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of things I will not elaborate on because I think I'm going to save them for my therapist. But wow.
Great episode. They're
Holy
killing
shit.
it. And they're killing us. And they're killing all of their characters. It's great.
Yeah. They love killing.
They love to kill.
Jeez. Thank you for listening to Lit by Moonlight. We loved having you with us.
Thank you so
through this
much.
group therapy sesh. Tune in next week when we review episode 6 of The Last of Us called Ken.
Yeah, nothing bad's going to happen at the end of that one.
Yeah, I wonder if it has to do with family.
Nothing. Nothing bad's going to happen. Nothing at all.